here because I think you're the only one that, outside of me, really, that could have this. Are you concerned about Jalen Carter? And I want to throw this at you. Someone asked me the other day, was Jerome lazy? I was like, I wouldn't say lazy, but what I would say is he would take plays off, and we had to remind him at times. And all of a sudden he would be reminded, and he'd make those flash plays, and you're like, shit. So you put up with a little bit of that. And I thought when he got around you guys, you and Reggie, he became a better practice player than he was with us because he saw how you guys prepared each and every single week. Not that we didn't, because we had a bunch of great people at UM. You know this. And so I tried telling people, are you concerned about Jalen Carter? And I'm like, hey, Jerome used to go in that parking lot at the vet on that motorcycle, and Jeff Fisher and all them guys, they used to call me, and he's going to 160 miles an hour, and everyone was worried about him, and everyone was concerned about him. Do you see that, and do you think the environment in that building is enough so that this guy can fulfill his prophecy? I want to be very respectful to my friend here.
I think that
and do you agree with what I said?
Oh, no. Listen, every player in the NFL has to grow up, okay? You asked me the question, was Jerome lazy? Yeah, he was lazy. There were times where he was lazy. There were times where him and I had heart-to-heart conversations. I'm like, you don't know how great you could be if you just spend an off-season working out. I said, I will come to Brooksville, or you can come to El Paso, Texas, and work out with me. I will go through it with you. I said, but if you get yourself in tip-top shape, you know, as great as you are right now, they're not going to be able to touch you. Unfortunately, you know, he had just got to a point where, you know, it wasn't going in one ear and out the other. It was
he
going
saw the light.
It was that off season. We were having conversations. That off season, Otho Davis actually sent me, you know, a video of him biking and training, you know, and unfortunately, you know, on June 25th, you know, we lost him. But when you talk about Jalen Carter has to go through that same growth spurt, you know, from a psychological and a mental standpoint. You know, it's hard for, you know, I talked about talent, you know, talent can either be a blessing or it can be a curse. You know, for the guy who relies only on his talent, it's a curse. Because when you get to this level, when you get to the level of the best, talent is not enough. Talent can get you there, but your hard work will keep you there. And it's hard for people who are supremely talented to realize that they need to work hard because they're just better than everybody else naturally. You know, it was different for me because, you know, I wasn't, you know, this great talent. So I knew I had to work my ass off to get to where I wanted to get to. So it was different for me. I spent, you know, I was in the classroom watching film to 7, 8 o'clock at night during the week when everybody else was out of the building by 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You know, I did extra, you know, work on the field when I felt like I needed it. I even got home at night after dinner and would study till 10:30, 11, 12 o'clock at night, you know, because I knew I needed the upper hand because I just couldn't beat everybody that I lined up against, you know, because I was supremely more talented than they were. So for the person who realizes that hard work is necessary, talent's a blessing because you just got to put in the work. For the person who doesn't get that, it's tough. You would hope for Jalen Carter that what he went through a couple of days after the national championship was, you know, a life-changing experience for him. because I would submit to you or surmise to you that the reason why his pro day was so crappy is because of all the things that he had to go through leading up to it. You know, I mean, football is probably the last thing on his mind. I mean, you get subpoenaed, you know, so you miss a day of the combine, and then you got all of this stuff that's swirling around you, and everyone's talking about you, and everyone's talking about, you know, that what you don't deserve, you know, and then you got to go out, you know, and perform for the scouts again. So hopefully the impact of that, I think what people forget is that his friend died, that a colleague died, and he had to deal with the reality of that. You know, it wasn't his fault that they died. It was his fault that they were doing what they were doing, and it was just as much theirs, God rest their souls, as it was his. You know, how many of us have done dumb things, stupid things, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 years old, and just by God's grace and mercy, I'm sitting here talking to you right now, Dan, or you're sitting here talking to me.
Me and Jerome used to race out front of the Miami. Hey, and someone asked me this, Seth. They go, did you and Jerome ever race out front of Miami? I go, yeah, he'd be in his Grand National. I would be in a Corvette. We would race. The cops would come. And just by the grace of God of what you're saying, nothing fortunately happened. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, someone would go like this. A cop came over or said something. And if I was Jalen Carter, I would lie too. Because you're in a position where you know that you're doing something stupid, and it comes and you start to realize that you could be looked at in a different light. Anybody in their right mind who's going to be the 9th pick in the draft, like Jerome was, is going to lie. My problem with the whole thing would be his decision-making. As long as he doesn't do the same shit over, Seth, and put himself in that position, to me, like you said, we all make dumb mistakes. But what I don't want is a reckless dude on my team. That's something I can't have, because that means I can't count on you. And if he learns from all this, and I think the environment's in the room. Tracy recruited him. Jordan Davis is there. He's got people he played with. They interviewed the defensive coordinator for the DC job that the Eagles did. So they've done all their due diligence. I personally think that the media guy who asked him that dumb question and said something like, hey, I don't really feel that you're really sorry, he's just got to watch himself, because the media in Philadelphia is going to set him up.
Yeah, can I address that? You know,
they set him up, Seth.
When someone is in a position of knowing what's in your heart and what's in your mind, only then can they judge the level of contrition that you have. This whole contrition thing chaps my freaking ass, if you will. Because you know what? You don't get to look at me and tell me what I feel. I don't care who you are. You don't get to look at me and say, oh, you know, you don't look like you're all that sorry. Excuse me, but fuck you. How about that? Okay? Because you don't know the pain that I go through every night when I see two people that mean something to me die in front of my own eyes. Okay? The question almost makes it seem like, because he's the one that lived and the other two died, it's his fault that they died. I just don't, the contrition thing really, really bothers me. Okay? Who died and made you God? Who put you in a position that you can judge someone and say, oh, well, you look like you're contrite, or you contrite enough. You said you're sorry enough. Go to hell. Okay? Go to hell. Because you don't know what I deal with on a daily basis. You don't know the nightmares that I have on a daily basis. Okay? You're just trying to write a story. You're just trying to put a narrative out there. Okay? Now, I don't know Jalen Carter, but if I had an opportunity to talk to him, Dan, you know what my spiel to him would be? Is that, listen, by God's mercy, you got a second chance where your friends didn't. Okay? You're in a unique position. Okay? You've worked your entire life for this. And there are these things out there that can snatch it away from you as fast as that night, that race snatched those 2 lives away from you. Okay? So you got a choice to make. You can either learn from that or you can learn the hard way. My mom used to always tell me, son, a hard head makes for a soft ass. And there's two ways to do things, okay? You can either do it the right way or you can do it again, okay? So you got your second chance. You're not going to get a third chance if you do something stupid, okay? All the naysayers, all the haters, all the doubters, they're waiting for you to confirm what they think about you. But only you know who you are. And only you know what your dreams are. And only you control the narrative of what your future is going to look like. Okay? You work too hard to get to where you are. Don't let nothing, no one, no circumstance snatch your dream from you. You know, you just can't do it. I mean, it reminds me of, you know, these guys back in the day, you know, who would go to the combine and smoke and test positive for smoking weed. You know they're going to test you, okay? You've been working your entire life for this. You mean to tell me that getting high is so important that you got to do it and then go and test positive knowing that people are going to move you off their draft board, you dummy? You know, I'm not letting anything or anyone deter me from my goal. My goal was to get to the NFL. I wasn't going to have any associations. I wasn't going to be mixed up in drugs in any way, stealing, none of that stuff. Because I already knew that I was fighting an uphill battle. I wasn't going to throw anything else on top of it to make that journey even that much more difficult. You know, this is the reality that people need to like hit these guys, you know, that have these troubled pasts. They need to hit them between the eyes. What else are you going to do in your lifetime that's going to allow you to change the dynamic of your family economically and for you to accomplish what you want to accomplish than what you're doing right now? So nothing's more important than that, okay? No party, no car, no woman, none of this. None of that stuff is more important than what your dreams are. So you put all of that stuff on the back burner, and everyone in your life has to understand that this is first and everything else is second.
Absolutely. Couple last questions for you, Seth. I know you got to roll. Brian Baldinger said something a couple weeks ago to me on the program, and I want to get your spin on this. You know, it's funny that Jordan Davis came into the Eagles out of shape, and it's also funny that Jalen Carter was out of shape for the combines and for his pro day. And this is what Baldy said. He was like, you know, that's a funny program. These guys do so much rotating and so much in and out and they get such big leads. And because you got a deal now, Seth, with Nil and with the transfer portal at Georgia, guys are in and out. You got a promise nowadays, not like when you and I played, you're going to play all 70 plays. No one's coming in for your ass. The programs today, those big ones like Bama and Georgia, you got to rotate a shitload of guys. And his opinion is this: those guys aren't NFL conditioned when they come into the NFL because they don't play game reps. They don't play 70 plays. That's why you don't see a lot of production. Like Jordan Davis had 9 sacks in 43 games at Georgia. And I'm like, man, that's not a lot of production. I look at Carter's stats. I see the skill. Great hands, great feet, controls the middle, does all the things. Then I watch him. I go, this is not a character thing. This is more, is it an indictment on the program that, you know, they have so many great players there, Seth, and that rotating, these Georgia guys, man, maybe they're just not in shape when they come into the game. Can Baldy be onto something here with that? They're just not in game. They don't do enough game reps.
I don't know that I agree with that 100% because, you know, what you see on the college level is now what you're witnessing on the pro level. Like when I played, I wasn't giving up any of my reps. Don't send somebody in because I look like I'm tired, okay? Don't send somebody in because, you know, you got a monitor on me that tells you that, you know, my oxygen levels are, a little lower than where they need to be. No, I'm the starting linebacker, and I'm going to start and play every damn play. I'm not giving any of my reps to anybody else. The dynamics are different now, okay? They're trying to make sure they can keep people fresh, for one. Secondly, they've got these players, on a percentage or a pitch count. They analytically, they feel like when players get to a certain amount of plays, that the risk of injuries go up exponentially. Like the Eagles. The Eagles you'll never, very, very rarely, maybe once a year, once every 2 years, will you see a running back supersede more than 18 carries in a game. Because I honestly believe that the Eagles, sports medicine people and sports science people believe that the minute that a running back gets above 18 carries, the probability of injury goes up exponentially, okay? So it's no different in Georgia. They're doing the same thing. They just got so much talent that they can get away with it a lot more than a lot of other programs can. Now, do these guys, need to get in shape for the pro level? Absolutely. None of us came into the pro game in shape for the pro game.
We all felt it, right, Seth? If you played college ball and a lot of it, like week 12, 13, 14, you were like, because we never played past 11 games and 12 games back then. I was like this in week 13 or 14. Holy shit, man. There's 4 more of these things.
Well, hey, listen, for me, it was just, we conditioned too. It wasn't like,
3 a days, 2 a days.
It wasn't like you didn't, you weren't prepared. That's why, in the buddy, we always got off to a 2-4 record, a 1-3 record, because, we just he beat the hell out of us, in training camp, and we conditioned almost every day after training camp. But by the time we got past week 4 or 5 and we, caught our second win, now we were in shape and, you could play a complete game and not have to worry about it. There's a distinct difference between, the level of conditioning that you have to have as a professional player and the level of conditioning that you have to have as a collegiate player. It's just factual. The game is faster, the game is more powerful, the game is more violent. All of those things, come into it. And now with these wide open offenses, you're playing more plays. Back in my day, if you played like 65 plays, that was a lot of plays.
A lot of plays.
Now, under 70, that's an anomaly. They're like 70 and above. So, you think about these long drives. You get a guy, and as smart as coordinators are, they say, okay, we got him on the field. We're not even going to change personnel. We're going to go hurry up so we can keep those guys that are in the game that are like got their hands on their knees and, can't even, their tongue is stuck to the roof of their mouth. We're going to keep them right down the field and wear them down even more, And a lot of times they force the defense to call a timeout just so they can rotate and get some new guys in and get those guys some oxygen. But it's like I always say, if you don't work hard and you don't practice hard, it's hard to play hard. Buddy pushed us. And he pushed us because he wanted practice. He wanted game to feel like practice and practice to feel like game. So he pushed. Maybe it was a little bit of overkill. I don't know. But I don't think that, the way that college teams manage their players and the way that pro teams manage their players is that much different. I just think that, these guys need to, by their second year, they need to adapt and get their pro body. Like Jordan Davis, in my opinion, Jordan Davis needs to be about 325 pounds, okay? He needs to be much more muscular than he is, from his neck down to his waistline, and
still got that baby fat, Seth?
Yeah, listen, you're playing against grown men. You're not playing against, kids anymore. So, it took me about 1.5 years, 2 years for me to get my pro body. And I thought that I was like there, but the difference was, I was bulky, but I was too big. You know, I came in at 255, you know, running the 4.5, 540. You know, Buddy looked at me after, you know, my rookie season. I started the last, you know, 7, 8 games of the year. And he was like, when you come in next year, I need you around, you know, 242 to 245, no more than 245. You know, people don't understand, you know, that's a lot, you know, to lose 10 pounds.
Oh, yeah.
You know, when you're mostly muscle anyway, you know, but once I did that, it changed the complete dynamic of how I played the game, my conditioning for the game, and everything else. So to me, what's more important is I want to see these guys get their pro body. I'm not worrying about conditioning, you know, because they'll get there. They're only going to play 60, 65% of the plays max anyway. You know, none of these players are going to play more than 60, 65% of the plays. Like Fletcher Cox, Fletcher only plays like 50, 55% of the plays, you know. So conditioning is not necessarily, you know, an issue in my book because there's very few positions, you know, the one starting linebacker that's in on every play, the corners, the quarterback, the offensive line, those guys are going to play every damn play. They ain't getting a break. Everybody else, they're going to get a blow.